Welcome to the Fantasy Source Football Podcast. My name is David A. Arnott, sitting here with Brad Pinkerton, and we're talking about the AFC East. Now, traditionally, at least in the past few years, it's been dominated by the New England Patriots. The Jets came on the scene last year, and I think it's pretty much consensus that the Bills are going to be pretty terrible again. But going into the season, I think the Patriots, again, probably consensus class of the division. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, there's no other choice but to lead off with the Patriots. They return all their weapons, even though one is a little limp right now with Wes Welker. But yeah, I think they've got all the right pieces in place, and they're going to put up a lot of fantasy points.
Now, Randy Moss has been a little bit, shall we say, uncomfortable with how he is, feeling a little bit disrespected about not getting a contract extension. Where do you see him and how he's going to perform this season?
Well, it could go one of two extremely different ways. Either he's going to use that as motivation, which I really don't think he needs. He's going to play up to an elite level to begin with, and the Patriots we'll probably decide mid-season whether or not it's worth extending his contract.
Now, you did mention Wes Welker, a bit limpy, or gimpy, whatever, however you want to put it. He says he's not feeling 100%. How do you think he's going to be? Because, he's been a PPR god the past few years.
Yeah, I don't listen to anything that Patriots coaches say. So you don't take their words for face value. The fact that he showed up week one of the preseason and the fact that he is going to be ready for week one of the regular season leads me to believe that he's fine. He may not mentally feel 100%, making cuts, this and that, but as far as being able to catch a Tom Brady pass on the dime every time, he's fine.
Hey, if he only needs to run 8 yards, one would think maybe that's easier than running 40.
Exactly.
Let's move to the Jets. They're one of my favorite teams to talk about because even though I loved the idea of drafting Mark Sanchez when he was drafted, I felt very vindicated in saying, hey, because I'd identified him as a college player and followed him all along. He's just not a good pro quarterback. I just don't think that there's much going for them on that offense, and that even it scares me to the extent of drafting someone like Sean Green.
Yeah, Sanchez was pretty awful last year. I'm not going to hold that against him completely. I'm going to hold his offense against him, though, because they're going to be run first, run second, probably run third, and there's really not much that he can do about it. When he is throwing, it's going to be in an obvious pass situation. I think you're still going to see a lot more interceptions because teams are looking for it, and the accuracy and the confidence just aren't going to be there because he hasn't had enough opportunities to get comfortable.
Now, how do you think that will affect Sean Green? Does that affect he's going to be the most obvious guy on that offense that's going to be targeted by managers. Do you still think he's a top 4 rounds running back?
Oh, sure. It's going to affect him in the sense that he's going to get a lot more carries percentage-wise. Now it's up to the offensive line to stand strong like they were last year and get him 4 yards to carry so that when he is getting all these touches, he's picking up first downs and staying on the field. That's going to be the key.
Something unique about the Jets, they're going to be one of the first defenses taken in a lot of drafts. Do you think that they are good enough, their defense is good enough defensively to take them over even some position players that you might be thinking, like in the middle rounds, or do you still put them in the same category as all the other defenses, or you just say sit on it, sit on it, sit on it?
My theory is to wait on defenses so the Jets really weren't on my radar. However, I can't argue against anyone taking them over like a mid-round flyer, backup running back, a fifth receiver. Yeah, it's hard to find a defense more stout and that's got. They do have a good schedule, even though they're playing the Patriots twice. They force a lot of turnovers, and they keep opponents out of the end zone. That's what you're looking for.
So many sacks, too, especially if your league counts those. Let's go down the coast a bit, down to Florida. And I think that the Miami Dolphins are kind of sneaky this year. Chad Henne, I would say this year probably is going to have a better fantasy season, in my opinion, than Mark Sanchez. And he's a solid backup quarterback option. It's odd that people might be forgetting about Brandon Marshall and everything that I'm reading about him. It's like, look, Brandon Marshall was an amazing wide receiver when he played. Why don't we seem to be giving him that much credit this year?
Right. We loved Brandon Marshall when Kyle Orton was under center.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Give me Chad Henne and a stronger arm, and I'm a little more excited. Henne is a little more erratic. Orton was the safe thrower, the short passes, and Henne will open it up a little more, but that kind of intrigues me when you have a guy like Marshall. He's going to be a PPR machine, and I think he is by far their best option around the red zone. So he has legit wide receiver 1 upside in fantasy leagues. and it's hard really not to rank him as a wide receiver 1 to start the season.
Now, it's been this way for the past few years that their running back situation is a little bit muddled just from a fantasy perspective. How do you see that one breaking down?
Well, you love the Dolphins' run game because they do love to run it so much. The addition of Marshall might take a little bit away from that, but the game plan is still run. And that's Ronnie Brown leading the charge. If he can stay healthy, he's always shown that he can put together very, very good fantasy numbers. It's just very rare that you're going to get 16 games out of him. So have Ricky Williams ready.
Yeah, that definitely a prime handcuff situation there. Let's go all the way up into upstate New York and Buffalo. No one was more upset than I was to see Brian Brom just not get the job outright. I mean, I'm sorry. I was so excited for him coming out of Louisville, and I thought he was getting a raw deal all along. But now more and more, after getting beat out by Matt Flynn in Green Bay, and now this situation, it's looking weirder and weirder. Is there anybody on Buffalo that you would say go into the season thinking, yeah, I want him in my starting lineup?
Starting lineup, no. Even watching,
Lee Evans.
Even watching, someone's got to throw in the ball, right?
Yeah, well, true.
Even watching C.J. Spiller be as electrifying as he was in the preseason, I'm not comfortable with him in the starting lineup. I would love to have him as the first guy off my bench and ready to plug in once he blows up, if he blows up. But that backfield is muddled. You got Fred Jackson coming back healthy, and they do trust him. So I think they're going to limit C.J. Spiller, but he is going to make the most of the touches he gets. But that's going to be a very boomer bust play, so that's why I wouldn't want him in a starting lineup.
It seems like it's a very much a coaching thing where all of us on the outside seem to think consensus-wise that C.J. Spiller should be getting as many opportunities as possible, and yet for some reason they're still sticking by Fred Jackson, and they're basically, and when Marshawn Lynch gets back, are they going to be giving him they're going to be giving him touches? I mean, we don't really know.
You're absolutely right, and that's why I don't want to draft C.J. Spiller as a starter or go into a week 1 with him in my starting lineup. It's a little too risky right now. And you know what? In a week or two, we may be looking back on that comment saying, wow, Pinkerton, you're an idiot. Look how good CJ showed you he was in the preseason, and now he's one of the top running backs in the league after 3 weeks. But he's going to have to show me before I can confidently put him in the starting.
Yeah, how could you have drafted Rashard Mendenhall? He's running for 2 yards a carry. Oh goodness, yeah. Well, like they say, we'll be seeing it in 4 weeks. We'll all be saying that we were all idiots for missing it. So, Brad, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks a lot.